Hello everyone, today we are breaking down Season 1, Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea of House of the Dragon. Remember to like the video, helps out the channel a lot, and subscribe, and yada yada yada, let's get to it. The first thing we see is potential suitors courting Rhaenyra. You may remember that Viserys and her agreed in Episode 3 that Rhaenyra would get to choose her husband. She is with a member of the King's Guard, Sir Criston Cole, who also happens to be her sworn shield. So basically, he is her protector. Borman Baratheon is here as well, helping advise Rhaenyra. This courting session is taking place at his seat, Storm's End. You may also remember Borman from the first episode. He is Rhaenys' cousin. Rhaenyra is growing tired of this charade, getting mad that she has to listen to old men who are old enough to be her grandfather try and court her. Then a younger lad, Willem Blackwood, tries to win her heart. Boardman points out that the Blackwoods have a formidable army and can trace their ancestors back to the first men. But Rhaenyra still doesn't seem enthused. The crowd chimes in as well. Gerald Bracken is roasting Willem. Gerald calls him a craven and Willem draws his sword. He will not be made a fool. Rhaenyra decides to leave, rather than listening to the other requests. She can see this for what it is, a mummer's farce. But before she can leave, we see that young Willem is able to defeat Gerald, stabbing him in the gut and killing him. This may come up again in later seasons. In the next scene, Rhaenyra is on a boat heading back to King's Landing. We find out that she ended the tour to find a husband 2 months early and rejected every candidate Viserys put before her, so Viserys is not going to be happy with her return. We then see Daemon, her uncle, return from the Stepstones on his dragon Caraxes, nearly capsizing her boat. Daemon has been on these Stepstones for at least 3 years. This is his first time returning to the capital. In the next scene, we see Viserys and the rest of court in the throne room. They are preparing for Daemon's unexpected arrival. Daemon is a bit of a wild one, so everyone has come to see the spectacle. Rhaenyra has just arrived, finding a place in the hall. Sir Harold Westerling, the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, and Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King, stand in front of the king waiting for Daemon. Daemon walks in with a crown and a hammer. The hammer may be familiar to some. It is what Craghas Dreher used to nail his victims to posts, and then he would watch crabs feed on them. Rhaenyra seems a little thrilled to see her uncle again. She and Daemon have always had a close relationship. Sir Harold stops Daemon from getting any closer to the throne, sword drawn. Daemon tells Viserys that they named him King of the Narrow Sea after the victory over the Triarchy. He goes on to say that he knows there is only one true king though, kneeling to his brother and swearing fealty to him. Viserys welcomes his brother back into the fold with open arms, happy to see him. Otto witnesses this from the side, annoyed to see Daemon back. Remember, Otto hates him. We are now in the Godswood. They are throwing a celebration for the return of the prince. Daemon and Viserys are telling stories about their youth to Alicent Hightower. Rhaenyra joins them, wanting to visit with her uncle. Viserys just stares at her though, still very mad about her not finding a husband, like she was supposed to do. It gets very awkward and Rhaenyra leaves and sits alone. Alicent comes to join her to talk about the tour. Alicent tells Rhaenyra she should feel lucky that she gets a choice. Most girls don't. Which is right, Alicent never had a choice in the matter. Alicent tells Rhaenyra that Viserys is angry about her return, but Alicent is happy to see her because she has been lonely. People just see her as the queen now. Rhaenyra says how she missed her as well. So the relationship has gone closer to what it was before Alicent married Viserys. This was a nice moment between the two. In the next scene, Rhaenyra and Daemon have some one-on-one time. She wants to know why he is here. Daemon says for the comforts of home, hiding his true intentions. Rhaenyra knows this but lets it slide. Daemon says how the princess has matured over the 4 years he has been gone. Rhaenyra mentions how her father is willing to sell her to whoever has the biggest castle. Daemon mentions that there are worse things to be sold for. So another person telling Rhaenyra, hey, you got it pretty good, better than most. You could be a bit more agreeable about marriage. Daemon tells her marriage is a political agreement, that there is nothing to it after marriage. You can do whatever you want. Rhaenyra points out that is only for men. They don't have to deal with the childbirthing and whatnot. Rhaenyra also states she does not want the same fate as her mother, being forced to produce heirs until it kills her. So another reason why she has done everything she can not to get married. She's scared of that fate. Daemon tells her that the world is tragic, but you cannot live in fear or you will forsake the best parts of it. So the YOLO method, basically. We are now at a small council meeting. Lionel Strong is here, the Master of Laws. Melos is the Grand Maester. Lyman Beesbury is the Master of Coin. And Tywin Lannister is the Master of Ships. Otto is here as well, so is Viserys and Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra has gotten a seat at the table, no longer a cupbearer, moving up in the world. They are talking about Corlys, how he is still mad that Viserys passed over Laena for Alicent. Otto also has more bad news that Corlys plans to marry his daughter off to the son of a Brovasi Sea Lord. The reason why this is bad is that the Velaryons have 3 dragons right now. Vhagar, Meleys, and Seasmoke. With the marriage of Laena, the Brovasi would now have access to dragons and dragon eggs. So the Targaryens would not have a monopoly on dragons anymore, which could hurt their rule one day. Rhaenyra, hearing this, knows that her father will make her marry Corlys' son Laenor. It's the only way to ensure an alliance between the two houses. In the next scene, Rhaenyra is off to bed. She is in a room where she finds a bag full of commoner clothes and a note from Daemon, explaining how to open the secret door in her room. The Red Keep has a bunch of secret passages and rooms throughout the castle. We saw Daemon use one in the first episode listening to the small council meeting. These passages were created by Maegor the Cruel, the king before Jaehaerys Targaryen. Not many know about these passages because after the workers who built them finished them, Maegor had them killed so they wouldn't be able to tell people about them. How Daemon knows about them is a good question. I'm sure he maybe read something about it in a book, perhaps? Who knows? She meets her uncle, who is also disguised. They are going to walk the streets of King's Landing as commoners. She is super excited about this, a real adventure, and she gets to have some fun, finally. They walk through the streets, seeing a whole load of crazy things. Some guy runs into her and tells her to F off, and she's excited about it. This is new. Nobody would dare say something like that to her as Rhaenyra. She's been complaining about her responsibilities, and now she kind of gets a taste of what it's like to be a commoner. We are now with Alicent and Viserys. He seems to be taking a bath in some kind of liquid, maybe milk of the poppy, but usually that stuff is ingested rather than soaking in it. Viserys has lesions all over, so maybe this helps with the pain. You may remember in episode 1 he had a wound that would not heal. Well, he is getting more of those wounds, so he seems to be getting sicker. We are back with Rhaenyra and Daemon. They are watching a street performance about her and the succession to the throne. We find out that the people of King's Landing don't seem to support her that much as heir, booing the actor portraying her. They also cheer when Aegon, her younger half-brother, is brought up. Daemon wanted her to see this. She needs to know she will have to win over the small folk because right now they would rather see Aegon be heir over her, which does matter a bit. Rhaenyra does not want to talk about this. She doesn't want to think about worries and inheritance and titles and duties. She just wants to have fun tonight. Rhaenyra and Daemon pull off a heist, kind of. She takes something and Daemon tells the vendor he will get her. She runs into Sir Harwin Strong. Harwin is the oldest son of Lionel Strong, the Master of Laws for the king. Harwin is part of the City Watch, which is why he has a gold cloak and is patrolling the streets. Rhaenyra says his name and he recognizes her right away. He then sees Daemon coming around the corner. Harwin plays along and says, "Take care, boy, next time you may not be so lucky." Harwin kind of gave her some advice like, "Hey, I'm cool with this, but some other knights could squeal on your night out. Be more careful." Daemon and Rhaenyra enter a pleasure house. This is juxtaposed with Alicent and Viserys having the sex. Daemon removes Rhaenyra's hat. People will now recognize her because of her hair, and people do. He tells Rhaenyra that banging is a pleasure for the woman and the man. He also says that marriage is a duty, but doesn't stop us from doing what we want either. And the two start making out. Daemon is stating, yes, you have to get married and do your duty as a wife, but you can still have fun with others if you so desire, with someone you truly love and like. We see the sex scene with Alicent and Viserys. Alicent is basically stone-faced throughout. She's doing her duty as a wife to the king, but she's not getting that pleasure from it like what Daemon is talking about, because she doesn't want to have sex with Viserys. She is just doing her duty. We return to Daemon and Rhaenyra making out, and things are getting pretty hot. But Daemon stops and stares at his niece. Rhaenyra wants to continue, but Daemon does not, and he leaves her at the pleasure house, making her find her way back to the Red Keep by herself. I think the reason why he stopped was because of Viserys. Daemon still likes his brother and respects him. I don't think he could do the deed without his brother's consent. As Rhaenyra leaves the pleasure house, a boy watches as she leaves. This comes up later in the episode. Rhaenyra returns to her room. Criston, who is standing watch outside her door, is confused about how she was able to get out. He does not know about these secret passages. Rhaenyra grabs his helmet, like the armor helmet, and plays keep away with it. Criston follows her into her room. Rhaenyra gives back the helmet, but steals a kiss in the process. Criston does not want to break his vows. Kingsguard members are supposed to be celibate. But Rhaenyra wants to, and he secretly does as well, and he just can't resist the urge. Again, this sex scene is very different from the one we saw earlier with Alicent and Viserys. Rhaenyra is getting pleasure from this because this isn't a duty for her like it is with Alicent. She is doing this for the fun of it, for the pleasure of it. Otto is awoken in the middle of the night. A messenger brings word from the White Worm, which is the name of the pleasure house. The boy who saw Rhaenyra leave comes to tell Otto what he saw. Daemon frequents this pleasure house a lot. Otto hates Daemon, so he has spies watching the White Worm to report any wrongdoings of the prince, so this was by pure accident that he got juicy information about the princess. Remember, Otto wants to see his grandson Aegon sit the Iron Throne one day, but Rhaenyra is heir. This info could be enough to get her disinherited. It would also get Daemon in trouble as well, maybe exiled, which is always a W for Otto. It is the next morning and Daemon awakes. Mysaria is taking care of him. Funny enough, Mysaria's nickname in the books is the White Worm. We find out she is no longer a whore. We then see the boy who told Otto this info come meet Mysaria. He gives her the money Otto gave him for the info. I've seen people think this was Daemon's plan all along, but to me it's clear he never mentioned anything to Mysaria about Rhaenyra coming here beforehand. To me, I think the boy just happens to be loyal to Mysaria, being part of her spy network, and giving her the money. I think Daemon does have a plan, but it has nothing to do with what Mysaria is doing. He looked very out of it and was surprised to see that he was in her room. We are now with Otto, and he is telling Viserys what he was told, that Rhaenyra was in a pleasure house with her uncle Daemon, making out and doing stuff. Alicent is in the room as well, not to Otto's knowledge though. Viserys refuses to believe this, laughing it off, then saying he wants whoever said this dead. So he's not taking this well. Viserys is also mad at Otto. He believes he is doing this to destroy Rhaenyra's reputation. Viserys knows what Otto wants, which is Aegon to be the heir. Viserys yells at him to leave. We're now with Alicent in the God's Wood. She wants to talk to Rhaenyra about last night. She tells Rhaenyra about the allegations her father told the king. Rhaenyra plays coy, saying Daemon just took her out into the city for some fun. Alicent knows she's not telling the whole truth, so she comes out and says it, that Rhaenyra had sex with Daemon in a pleasure house. Rhaenyra is quite mad about this cause it is untrue, they just made out. But she doesn't say that. Rhaenyra goes on to say to question her virtue is an act of treason, so she is still saying she is a virgin, which is not true. The reason Alicent is so distraught about this is that she was raised in a very religious family. Old Town is where the Starry Sept is, which is the HQ of the Faith of the Seven. The High Towers are credited with building the Sept, so to Alicent, this is a big deal. Alicent just wants to help Rhaenyra, so she wants the whole story. Rhaenyra tells her what happened, and that they were at a pleasure house, but Daemon did not touch her. She swears this on her mother's memory, which helps Alicent believe the story. We are now with Daemon returning to the Red Keep. The Kingsguard grab him to bring him to Viserys. Daemon is still very hungover. Viserys wants to know if the rumor is true. Did he sleep with Rhaenyra? Daemon doesn't even try and deny it, stating that Viserys and him visited a lot of brothels at her age. Viserys points out that they are men, and Rhaenyra is just a girl. It kind of shows the double standard for men and women with regards to sex. Daemon says that it's better that it was with him rather than some whore. So he is implying that he and Rhaenyra did have the sex, even though they didn't, which gets a rise from Viserys. Daemon then asks for Rhaenyra's hand in marriage so he can restore the House of the Dragon to its proper glory. So Daemon's plan was to bed Rhaenyra, though he couldn't do that part, but everyone thinks he did, so it kind of worked. Then no other lords would want her since she was sullied, meaning he would be the only suitor left. Then Rhaenyra would be his, and then he would be king consort when Rhaenyra sat on the throne. Honestly, it was a pretty good plan. But Viserys does not want to give Daemon what he wants. He tells Daemon to go to the Vale to see his wife. So he's kinda exiled again. We are now with Alicent and Viserys. Both have basically been told different stories about the matter. Alicent backs Rhaenyra, saying Daemon is known for lying. She also states how Rhaenyra swore to her that she remains a maiden, and she believes her. So Alicent is sticking up for her friend. She could have easily gone with what her father said, and Aegon would be the heir, but she did not do that. Alicent chose her friend instead, which is honorable. We're now with Rhaenyra and Viserys. They are talking about the Catspaw dagger, which may look familiar to some. It is what killed the Night King in Game of Thrones. It once belonged to Aegon the Conqueror. He had Valyrian pyromancers hide his prophecy on the blade. It's only readable when it's heated by flame. Viserys says that the prophecy is bigger than the throne or any king. It's bigger than Rhaenyra's desires. So we get back to the main crux of their issues. Viserys says it does not matter if it's a lie, it's the perception. People will know about this, and it's her fault for putting him in this position. He will not disinherit her, but she will marry Laenor Velaryon to bring House Velaryon back into the fold. She really does not want to, but Viserys leaves her no choice. Rhaenyra wants to know if he will get rid of Otto as Hand. She believes he is self-interested. He wants Aegon as heir, and he will stop at nothing to see Rhaenyra disinherited. She agrees that she will marry Laenor, but Viserys will have to remove Otto as Hand. This helps Rhaenyra. She won't have to watch over her shoulder as much. We are now with Viserys and Otto. Viserys gives him a compliment saying he taught him how to be a king, but he goes on to say how well calculated it was for Alicent to come to his room to help him deal with his grief after Aemma Arryn died. So basically, Viserys is calling Otto out, knowing how he sent his daughter to him to somewhat seduce him, so maybe Viserys would choose her as his new wife. Viserys believes Otto was a faithful servant to the crown, but he can no longer trust his judgment, and he relieves him of his duties as Hand of the King. We are now with Melos. He brings a special tea to Rhaenyra. It is called Moon Tea. Basically, it is Plan B. So Viserys does not trust Rhaenyra completely, still having doubts about her virtue. So what do you think of episode 4 of House of the Dragon? Leave it down in the comments below, and if you want more House of the Dragon content, please subscribe and like the video. Also check out the Twitter link in the description below, and as always, have an awesome day.